The most durable of our sports dynasties is Notre Dame football. In every decade of the century, except the first, Notre Dame has been ranked #1 in the nation at least once. By every gauge, by team championships and individual honors, by memorable coaches and fierce rivalries, by tragic losses and stunning success stories, by its legends and its following, by films it inspired and income it generated, Notre Dame football is college sports' greatest dynasty.
Today I announced my resignation as head football coach at the University of Notre Dame effective at the end of the 1996 season.
The toughest job in America is the mayor of New York. The second toughest job is president of the United States, and the third toughest job is being head coach at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's reign began even before the Yankees.
I'm a kid who grew up in Jersey. So, I'm familiar with the Yankee tradition and the Yankee heritage. I think Notre Dame has that type of aura about it.
Baseball players wanted to play for the New York Yankees. Young kids wanted to play college football, they wanted to play at Notre Dame.
On my birthday one day, I guess I was about 7 or 8 years old, my mother bought me a book, Knute Rockne, All-American, written by Harry Stuhldrayer, one of the Four Horsemen. And I must have read that book at least 25 times.
First time you're there, you see the George Gipp Rockne story. I mean, they show you that movie the first day you're on campus.
Rock, someday when the team's up against it, brakes are beating the boys, ask them to go in there with all they've got. Win just one for the Gipper.
Win one for the Gipper, especially since the Gipper made it to the White House for 2 terms. I mean, that speech is going to be remembered forever, as long as there's America.
I thought it was the greatest movie I ever saw. I was so thrilled. I couldn't wait to get out the next day as a freshman to scrimmage against the varsity.
The national championships, the Heisman Trophy winners, more of each than any other school, all sprang from the football genius of a Norwegian immigrant, Knute Rockne.
We're going inside him. We're going outside him. Inside him, outside him. And when we get him on the run once, we're going to keep him on the run.
There's no coach, none, ever, today included, ever was that big.
Rockne is not only the greatest coach of the 20th century in college football, he's the most important individual of the 20th century in college football.
Knute Rockne, the old-timers when I was at Notre Dame would, they would cry about it.
Rockne just had a feel that football was a national game and that Notre Dame was a national school.
Boy, he knew how to market. He knew how to sell a product.
There's been a lot of objections to spring football, and I object to it myself because I can see where it interferes with your necking and drinking.
Rockne grew up in nearby Chicago, played for Notre Dame, and caught a touchdown pass, a startling new weapon that triggered one of college football's historic upsets.
The story of Notre Dame begins with the story of the underdog. Here was this tiny little Catholic school from the Midwest coming out in 1913 and with this revolutionary offense upset mighty Army.
In 1918, Rockne became head coach at his alma mater and produced back-to-back undefeated seasons by the dawn of the 20s, the golden age of sports and sports writers.
He had a great friendship with the New York writers, and he catered to the press.
You had Grantland Rice with the most famous lead in sports history, outlined against the blue-gray October sky. The Four Horsemen rode again. In dramatic lore, their names are famine, pestilence, destruction, and death.
They had got the idea of putting these 4 backs on horses. And so we got them on horses, and the picture was circulated around the country.
That solidified the Four Horsemen as the greatest backfield of all time.
The Four Horsemen galloped to the national title in 1924, and Rockne won again in 29 and 30, despite playing a bold and brutal schedule.
His team played everywhere, the Ramblers they called them. He wanted to play the best all over America.
Rockne wanted to call them Ramblers. But then somewhere along the way, the moniker Fighting Irish got hung on them because somebody had written a column sometime in Chicago about they fought like a Southie Irishman.
You've got to respect them because they'll play anybody. They play the toughest teams and win.
They played their games in New York. That gave them national exposure.
The biggest weekend in New York was the Army-Notre Dame game. That was the Super Bowl in New York.
The streets would be lined with the parade. It would be down Fifth Avenue and open cars with the team and everything.
And in each of these cities, huge numbers of fans turned out, not simply Catholics, but many Jews, many other ethnics.
Few of these fans had degrees from Notre Dame, but they had determination. They became known as the Subway alumni.
Took Notre Dame as her school because of the Fighting Irish, and they might not have even been Irish, they could have been Italians.
I mean, the Subway alumni were all over the United States, all over the world.
I had to be maybe like 6 or 7 or 8 years old at the time. I used to have my head underneath this radio, and whenever Notre Dame played, I was listening.
When radio starts, Notre Dame doesn't charge anything for radio. It allows all the networks to broadcast.
The Chicago stations came in here, New York stations came in here. There were network shows, NBC.
Rockne had his team and his following. All he needed was a suitable home. In 1930, undersized Cartier Field gave way to Notre Dame Stadium with seats for 54,000.
When he built the stadium, he reserved a lot of space for parking. And the priests came to him and they saw the design for the stadium. And they said, Newt, what's this for? He said, this is for cars. And they said, well, nobody drives. And Rockne said, they will, fathers, they will.
At his peak and at Notre Dame's, Newt Rockne, only 43, died in a plane crash in 1931.
Somebody put the fire out.
One day, the whole world closed up.
When his plane crashed in 31 and he was very young, he became immortal almost from that day on.
This great coach, this great innovator, this great motivator. All of a sudden he's dead, and literally at the very height of his career, at the very zenith. But the great thing about Notre Dame is that it wasn't the end.
It began as a small Catholic school in Indiana and has never lost its religious tradition or identity. It has won an army of converts to a religion called Notre Dame football.
Campus was, it was a special spirit, and it didn't take long for you to learn. It was special. It was a special place.
All you have to do is be on campus on Football Friday to understand why Notre Dame football just says volumes.
You have pep rallies here in high school, at Woodrow Wilson, I have pep rallies, But these things were like emotional battle cries.
We used to go to the old field house. It was incredible because they would jam that thing. I mean, just wall-to-wall people, guys hanging on the rafters up there, and the band playing, and it was what Notre Dame was all about.
When you walk in Notre Dame Stadium, you still feel Newt Rockne there. You just still see Newt Rockne patrolling the sidelines. You see his face and his figure almost in everything, from the Golden Dome helmets to the way they play with no names on the back, to the play like a champion today sign as they go out of the locker room.
For a full decade after Rockne's death, Notre Dame did not once go undefeated, did not win a single national championship. Then in the 40s, Frank Leahy revived the dynasty.
Leahy couldn't stand to lose. I mean, it killed him to lose.
He was so tough. He was like a Marine drill sergeant. This one fellow came out of a game one day and he said, "Are you tired?" And he said, "Yes." He never played him again.
He also understood how Notre Dame could recruit systematically by harvesting the parochial school system. Every Catholic schoolboy with wonderful football potential was steered by the nuns and priests to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame doesn't recruit, Notre Dame gathers. Everybody wants to play for Notre Dame.
From 1946 to 1949, Notre Dame won 36 games, lost none, and tied 2, including a game of the century scoreless draw with Army in 1946, ending the Cadets' 25-game winning streak.
The 47 team alone, 7 out of the starting 11 are in the Hall of Fame. On one team. They played 36 games in those 4 years. They were never behind in a game. Think about it, never behind in a game.
Notre Dame slumped after Leahy left. Still in 1956, Paul Hornung became the only Heisman Trophy winner from a losing team. And the following year, the Irish snapped Oklahoma's record 47-game winning streak. 7 years later, Ara Parseghian arrived.
He saw everything. He used to sit in this tower, about 30 feet up, and I'd make a mistake, and I'd quickly glance up to see if he was looking. He wasn't looking. Oh, boy, got by that one. Then all of a sudden, I'd step into the huddle, and his voice would come down from the sky. Joe, can't afford to make that mistake again. How'd you see that? How'd you know?
Notre Dame is a national institution. I was getting calls from Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York. I mean, all of a sudden I realized that this was much larger than I ever anticipated.
Parseghian won 2 national titles in 11 seasons, his image barely tarnished by his decision to run out the final 84 seconds of the 1966 duel between #1 Notre Dame and #2 Michigan State.
I think I've ever seen a more intense, greater football game than that one, in which there was no winner.
Ara knew damn well that if this game wound up in a tie, Notre Dame would get the vote in the polls. So he got his tie, got his national championship. Duffy went to his grave bitching about it.
Lou Holtz led Notre Dame to its 11th national title in 1988.
From the 9, here he comes. Rocket to the 30. Here he goes. Goodbye. Touchdown, Notre Dame, no flag.
I never said my football team. This was Notre Dame's football team. Most plays you feel, well, this is my program. It wasn't. In Notre Dame, that belongs to the country.
When Holtz resigned in 1996, he had coached more Notre Dame games than even Rockne or Leahy. His Heisman Trophy winner, the school's 7th and most recent, was Tim Brown.
Tim Brown will score.
When I won the Heisman, a lot of people are saying that if you wouldn't have gone to Notre Dame, you wouldn't have won the Heisman. And I just said, so a reaction to what he asked me was, hey, look, don't blame me for picking a great university.
Houston 34, Notre Dame 28. Montana going. And it's a touchdown. A touchdown.
When a quarterback goes to Notre Dame, he knows that #1, he's in a glamour position at the glamour school of all college football. Notre Dame is Notre Dame. And you're a great high school quarterback, you want to go there. There's other guys who already been there. It's no secret.
There's no greater feeling, I don't think, in athletics than running through that tunnel before a game out into Notre Dame Stadium and having the student body and the whole crowd just erupt in cheers.
They took the helmets on Friday and buffed them and sprayed them all. So when they came out, that gold helmet was a gleaming golden dome.
I watched this offense come up, these helmets just glittering. I took a step back. I literally was just like, whoa. And it made me feel like, God, I'm glad I'm not playing against those guys.
In its early days, Notre Dame games were broadcast on radio for free. In 1990, the school sold the television rights to NBC for $35 million over 5 seasons.
That began a partnership which is one of the centerpieces of NBC Sports. Beano Cook used to say, the biggest single thing that could ever happen in television sports, the Casablanca used to call it of television sports, would be if anybody could get an exclusive television deal of Notre Dame football.
Touchdown Jesus, the Rockne Stadium, the Golden Dome. He built an image and a spirit that is unmatched in any other school in America.
Well, the dynasty comes with the people who want to be the caretakers of it. Without the fans who care, there is no dynasty. They come back too with a devotion and a caring about this team and this university that makes it very special. It's because they care so much that they cradle this dynasty.